I have the Skookum Bush tool. It's probably the best knife I've ever owned. Wow. I better get that paper before it litters the forest. What? I gotta start a bow drill fire without using a knife? Today's episode involves only what we find in the woods, so there's not gonna be any modern tools. It's gonna be 100% primitive. I'm gonna show you how to break rocks and get some sharp edges out of them. You don't have to be a flint knapper to do this, so that's the beauty of what I'm gonna teach you today. I don't recommend going in the woods without a knife, without a fire starting system to start a fire, so play it safe and have a way to start a fire. We don't go into the bush without a knife or a way to start a fire. Here's a tree that got blown over by the wind. I found a splinter here. I'm gonna see if I can get it in here and wedge out a fireboard. Here's that splinter I had. I'm gonna make it like a wedge. See if I can pull it off. That looks like a potential fireboard. I'm gonna try to break this piece off into some smaller pieces that are usable for a fireboard. These are two good fireboard sizes. I think I can try this. I see a potential spindle here. This isn't laying on the ground, but it feels dry enough, so I'm gonna make some good use of this. There's one piece. There's another piece. Now, cleaning it up's not so bad. Rub it against a log or a tree. That gets the side branches off. Looks like I found my workbench. Okay, there is a pretty good angle on this rock, so it's time to abrade this stick. I'm gonna braid this until I go round and round. This part's working well. Just gonna keep going round and round until I score it. Then I can either snap it nicely or I'll go until it comes apart on its own. Making some good progress already. That seems like it should be enough. Good. This is going to be the top of the spindle. I want to abrade some more of these little branches off, so I can do that too. This rock is a multi-purpose rock. This is the easiest way to do it. I got a lot of leverage to get this done. I want the spindle somewhere about this long, but because it curves here, I'm going to cut it off right before that. Usually I like this much, but I go just a little shorter today based on what I have available, based on what's going to make the most usable spindle. Now when you do this, you try not to abrade your hands and cut yourself. I didn't, but I know it's possible, so I want to avoid that. All right, now it's time to dress it up. I can use the weight of my body to get even more pressure. I'll just smooth it off. Now I'm gonna do like some of the angles. That's starting to come together. I'm gonna work on the top of the spindle now. Just gonna keep abrading, turn, abrade and turn. Okay, here's the initial one. Has a pretty good point to it, but doesn't have to be extreme for my purposes today. I'd like it more pointed like a regular spindle with a knife, but we're not using a knife today. The bottom rounded off pretty nice, and I made the second one the way I like it. The two hands apart. Now, because the rock is angled this way, I kept the angle going up. That way I kind of trained the cut to be up this way, so it would be more spindle-like at the bottom. So now it's going to be more beveled this way. So I can pull, I can push, but I think pushing and pulling, that's one way, but I think I can have more control with pulling. But there's another way. Find a larger rock, and you got more options. You can really put your weight into it. There's more working surface area, so this is definitely a plus if you have a big rock. Here's a little bit of a refining move. You can cut into it kind of like right around a level. So I want to make it a little more pointed, so I'm going to kind of cut right at the edge here. And I'm going to turn it. Now I got a multi-tool. At this point, socket lube shouldn't be a problem. I'm gonna get the big juicy ones. That's enough out of one tree. That's a good one. See how good this branch is. This is a hemlock tree. I'm just going to score around it. That way I can break it off in a controlled way. I want the bark intact. All right, finish it off. A little bit more. Maybe we go all caveman on it. That worked. It's time to abrade off this piece. I'll braid off the other piece. This way I get a nice controlled break. A nice controlled break. All right. I want to armpit the fingertip. So somewhere around here is good. Just going to make sure I like what I'm doing here. I'll train the bow. The bow wants to go this way. I'll train it while it's easy and I have more leverage. At this point I'll braid about halfway. Okay, I braided about halfway. Now what I can do is kind of break it a little bit. See how this is opening up? It's opening up some. I'll show you from this angle. So it's opening up. Now I want to braid off the other side. This way I can make my reinforced split bow. Now I braid off the other side. Okay, I braided the other side. Now it's time to snap it off. All right. Now I have a split for the bow. So now I have my reinforced, well, I have a split. I have to reinforce it later with a piece of cordage. I put a little twig inside the split so it stays open. So I can snap it off. Now I have my split here. It's opened, it's primitive, but it's going to help me put the cordage in here. I'll still have to reinforce it here. Here's a hemlock tree. It was blown over by the wind. Here's some bark. Let's see if we can make a socket out of it. This piece looks pretty good, but should always take a little bit more just in case you need it. So I'll leave this for another time. Here's the bark that I have. I usually like to pick a nice flat area, so I'm going to choose this piece, break it off so it fits in the hand nicely, and this area right here looks really good. I usually don't like the inner part of the bark. I like the outside part of the bark better. That seems to perform better for me. Basically, now I'm going to find a rock that's capable of making a socket divot. I'm going to make two in this one. One and two. Never hurts to have more sockets, because at the moment of truth you might need to switch over. Sometimes the socket breaks on me. That's a real thing. So you give yourself the best chance for success. Here's some pine resin here. Oh, that's good. That's going to go right inside the socket. The spindle helped break it off, but that's getting it started. A little bit more here. I'll have to pick that up, but that's the idea. I want the socket and the spindle to have it. I like to take the root and kind of train it to bend the correct way, but this also removes the bark from it. All you really need is the bare root itself. If you remove the bark, that's fine. Sometimes I like to keep the bark because I figure that's extra strength, but the bare root is all you need. Here's the bark on the root. Okay, it's time to reinforce the bow. Here's the split. Now I'm going to reinforce it. Going to use spruce root for that. I'll tie a clove hitch, which is nice because it's not like it hurts the root and puts excess strain on it. It's a very nice root for that. I can attempt to go for a reef knot. We'll do it this way. The longest one over the shortest one, and the longest one over the shortest one. All right. Now we have a reinforced split bow. Now I got to string it. I'm going to tie the overhand knot. There's an overhand knot. I'm going to tie another overhand knot. Put that over the fork of the bow. I'm going to allow the first overhand knot to keep everything from sliding through. So that's how it's done. For the next part, wrap around once, wrap around twice, pull a little bit so the spindle tilts, because whenever we start bowing, it's going to come straight ahead. The natural way to go is in here, so that's how I'm going to do it. I don't have enough extra root to tie it off, but I'm going to use hand tension, but I could also put a half hitch in here. Maybe I can get that other half hitch in. I'm going to try it. That'd be great if I could. I got the 2 half hitches in there. Spindle gets double wrapped. 1, 2, and now we're in business. Time to drill once we get a starter hole made. I have decided that I like this for a fireboard, and I'm gonna pick a thicker part of the rock to make the divot. Actually, I'm gonna use this side. Gonna make the starter hole. The bigger the starter hole, the less bowstring work has to happen. So I have less time working the spindle and the bowstring. But because I have to burn in a spindle, this is a brand new set, this is a same day situation, I will have to drill some. I don't want to go too far from the end of the fireboard because that's more wood I'm going to have to take off primitively to make my notch correctly. So this is coming along. I'll go at different angles so the rock works efficiently. And just a little bit more. This part you're familiar with. Time for a burn-in. I have my second socket just in case. I'm going to switch sockets just to increase my chances of success. All right, things are going. I'm seeing good powder, smoke. The burning is going well. I'm going to go with that. That's successful. Since the spindle's hot, I'm going to reapply some socket lube, some of that pine resin. There it is. Extra pine resin to lube the socket. Here's another rock. It's time to make a notch. Now I got to braid the fireboard. Work at different angles. The other rock had a sharper edge to it, but this will get it done. Usually I like to get the bottom, and then I'll work the top part, and I'll just work it back and forth. I'm actually holding the notch, the wood of the fireboard, so it doesn't like break off. So that's also good to know. We're getting there. Next, I may choose to use a smaller rock to work into the center of the notch. I'll go to the near center of the hole, which means I'm not going to the exact center, but just stopping short of that. Making some heavy-duty progress. The thing is though, I need just a little bit more notch cut out. It's worth it to spend the time to make the notch correctly. I'm gonna fine tune it and we should be ready to go. Here's the notch. That should be sufficient. Good thing I got this piece of birch bark. I have something to keep my knee on, keep it clean. Prepare this area a little bit better. Get a leaf as an ember catcher there. Now we drill for fire. We'll drill for an ember to get flames, and if it goes to a fire, good. If not, that's okay too. But the idea is to show how to get an ember primitively and make the flames happen. All right, we're gonna let the wind blow. Thank God for the wind. The ember's coming. All right, this is excellent. There's our ember. Sweet. Now it's time to finish what we started. Ember goes in the beech leaves, cover it up a little bit. That's a 100% primitive fire, zero modern tools except for what I made out of rocks, but yes, same day fire. This means I can go out in the wild and find what I need to start a fire in the woods. Oh, this is great. Okay. I know I have fire and flames, that sort of thing, but I'm going to start my next fire. I'm going to get a starter hole in here, burn in this other spindle, because a root bowstring is going to get dry and break. when it's dry, so might as well use it now while it's still possible. I also put more socket lube in the socket. Might as well prepare for the next fire. I have one finger covering up the pine resin in there. That way I don't lose it. The interesting thing is you can see how the spindle is not round. It's making a weird shape. That's because I don't have a knife to cut the end of the spindle so it's a perfect circle. I could burn this in a little bit more, but probably what will end up happening is I'll abrade it on a rock to make it as circular as I can. Here's the reality of it all. It's hard enough to start a fire with a knife, to carve a spindle, to carve a fireboard, then make a notch. But it's even that much harder to do it with your bare hands and whatever tools you can make along the way. But in a survival situation, even a pathetic knife would be so nice to have. I've made fireboards before and tried to use rocks, and I thought to myself, even a bad knife would have been good to have. So any tool you can find or make is still good, but obviously we want to take the best, highest quality knife we can with us because that's an insurance policy. So the better gear you have, the better off you'll be.